Welcome to 20th Century Geek. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 20th Century Geek. I'm your regular host, Scott Weatherly. Now, it's confession time. Now, it's quite obvious that, I'm a pop culture nerd. If I wasn't, I wouldn't have a podcast called 20th Century Geek. But in addition to that, I'm a bit of a history nerd. Now, I will be honest, this isn't an academic pursuit. It is influenced also by the pop culture. Two fictional characters really influenced me and my enjoyment of history. I'll be honest, they probably give a false picture of history, and I've learnt that since. But it's these two people that led me to, these two characters that led me on to do history as a GCSE, as an A-level, and then later as a university degree. And has always kept my foot in that sort of camp. Now, the first one has probably influenced so many people, and also gives a real false impression of their area of expertise. First of all, archaeology is not whip slinging and gun shooting, and despite the fact I love Indiana Jones and will be covering him on a future episode, no doubt, I didn't quite get the gist of archaeology. Didn't quite, feel it was for me. I think, once I realised that Time Team was closer than sort of Temple of Doom, it sort of fell out of favour with me. But I'd already got that itch for history. The other one, though, we will be talking about today, is another character that I came across much later in life, when I was in my secondary school. In about 1994, I came across a book called Sharpe's Rifles. And I was introduced to the daring, swashbuckling hero of the Napoleonic Wars, Richard Sharpe, and all of his fellow rifles. From the book, which I found in the school library, I thoroughly enjoyed. I found the TV series starring Sean Bean and many others in a fantastic cast. And from there, a real sort of affection for this group of characters grew. I've read all the books. I've got all the books. I love the TV series. And it fostered a real sort of fascination for the truth of history compared to the fiction. Now that comparison is really what led to 20th Century Geek coming about. It's always been that thing of, I love pop culture, I love nostalgia sort of areas, but I also quite like this idea that the reality and history influences pop culture and vice versa. Pop culture influences reality. So what are we going to do today? So it's not going to be me just rambling. I am doing that right now. But we'll move on because I got the absolute honour of talking with Richard Sharpe creator Bernard Cornwell recently for a very short interview. Wonderful, wonderful gentleman. And we'll go on to that in a moment, find out more. And in addition to that, I thought it's not enough. Bernard Cornwell is an amazing get, and I'm really pleased I got to speak to him. But that's just the books. That was one of the books. I wanted to know more about the TV show, so I reached out, and the actor Jason Salkey, who played Rifleman Harris on the TV series, responded, and I interviewed him and spoke to him again recently, and he gave some fantastic insight into the behind-the-scenes of the shows, how it was made, some of the experiences, some anecdotes. All of this actually boils down to the fact he's actually writing a book at the moment all about those experiences and that time while they're filming the Crimea, and when they were making Sharpe. So we'll get more into that later on. He gives a really good pop for that book. But I think we need to start at the beginning. So 1981, probably even earlier than that. And let's go and talk to the creator and author of all of the Sharpe novels. I'll pass you over to me and Bernard Cornwell. But thank you very much for the time. I appreciate you taking the time to talk. And I appreciate it's early in the morning there, so I'll jump right in if that's okay.
Fine.
So, as I say, thanks for taking the time. I'm a big fan of the Sharpe novels. I came across them when I was an early teenager in the late 80s, early 90s. I found it in my school library. So it was a great introduction to sort of a step up in reading for me. It was actually you and Stephen King that sort of introduced me to adult books. But the first Sharpe novel was published in 1981, which was actually, I didn't realise was Sharpe's Eagle. But what led you to create Richard Sharpe and the Rifles?
Oh, merely circumstances. I mean, years ago I had a proper job. I was a television producer. And then one day I met this American woman and fell in love as one does, and she couldn't live in Britain for perfectly good, cogent reasons, and I had no ties in England. So I came here, and I couldn't get a work permit. So I said, don't worry, darling, I'll write a book. Aha.
Yeah, simple solutions.
And, I mean, I was a great fan of the Hornblower series, and I think at that time, I mean, God, it's a long time ago, but Douglas Riemann was writing. It was the Belitho series. I don't think O'Brien had started then. But it just occurred to me there were, I think, three people. I mean, Forrester doesn't count. He died by then. But there were people making a perfectly good living writing about the Royal Navy and its fight against Napoleon. And I thought there must be some stories in the army, in Wellington's campaigns. And so, I mean, it was a totally venal decision. I needed to make enough money to stay in America. And I thought that was a gap on the bookshelf. There are plenty of stories about Hornblower and Belitho. So it was time the army had a crack. So that was it.
So that's what. So that was. It was just simply sort of circumstance in your admiration for the history. So why the Napoleonic?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd always wanted to write. But then lots of people want to write. Scratch a school teacher, and you find somebody who wants to write a novel. So it had been in my mind, but I think if I hadn't met Judy, I would never have done it. And it worked out. We're still married 40 years later.
Which is excellent. So it was fortuitous circumstances all round then, really.
Yeah, it was absolutely. I mean, it was totally circumstances. I mean, well, I don't deny that it was something I'd thought about before, but I'd never done anything. I never thought I would write a book. And
so,
if I hadn't met Judy, I probably never would. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? Fate is inexorable.
So I mean, the Richard Sharpe and the Rifles are mostly fictitious characters, sort of taking part in historical events.
In what?
So Richard Sharpe and the Rifles are very much fictitious characters taking part in historical events. So you were, that was obviously important. So you added in the historical note at the end of the books, which I found incredibly useful. But was that always the intention, was to sort of give them some historical context and?
Well, yeah. I mean, I suppose we always write what we want to read, and I'd always thought there was that gap on the shelf. And I suppose this, that I can't remember, but I think probably when I was very young, some historical novel or other got me interested in history. And I think that historical novels are a sort of gateway to history. So it's a nice, easy way into the subject. And really, the historical note is a place to confess my sins. To confess what I've changed and what really didn't happen and what did happen. And also a chance to say to people, look, if you want to know more, here's some suggestions.
Which I have to say was exactly what it did for me. That's exactly how I saw it. It led to me doing further research on the topic and on the subject, and especially during my GCSEs and stuff, they actually helped me out and directed me to some quite interesting places.
Well, I'm I'm terribly pleased.
Yeah.
I did get a letter once from somebody who said that he passed his exams at Sandhurst because of one of the Sharpe books.
Well, they are incredibly insightful, and like I say, so they were popular, and they were made into a television series for ITV. How did that come about? Because that was 1993 that came out.
I never know how those things come about. I mean, television and film producers work in very strange ways, and I mean, obviously somebody must have liked the books and thought it a good idea, and amazingly managed to get financing for it. But I mean, I stay well away from all of that.
So,
and, I worked in television for 11 years, and the one thing I do know is that I know absolutely nothing about producing television drama. So I don't get involved.
Well,
it's awfully nice when it happens.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I heard a rumor. It was suggested that Sharpe's Rifles, which obviously becomes is a prequel to Sharpe's Eagle, the first novel, was written and elements were added as part of that sort of interest.
Yes, it was. That's quite true.
Okay.
I can't remember the sequence of events now, but Milo Sutherland, who was the wonderful producer, wanted a Portuguese character. I'm guessing, and it is a guess, that it was because he wanted some Portuguese money for the production. I don't know. It was shot in Portugal. I mean, that one was filmed in Portugal. So I wrote Sharpe's Rifles. I mean, if a television producer says, I want a story, only an idiot doesn't do it.
Yes, very true. So when
I got on well with them. I mean, I used to visit the set, and they were good people, and I liked what they did.
I was going to say, well, I actually recently spoke.
They said, did I want to be an advisor? And I said, no, I don't. I'll be a cheerleader.
Yeah, which is that's a fun way. Enjoy it from the sidelines. I recently spoke to Jason Salkey, who played Rifleman Harris, and he.
Right, it was a good guy. Yeah, married a very, very pretty Ukrainian girl.
Yes, he gave me some interesting anecdotes of from on set, and hinted at things around the casting of Sean Bean, because originally it was Paul McGann. So did you obviously you had little, I'd say, to no input, but what were your feelings when you heard of the casting of both Paul McGann and Sean Bean, having lived with the character for so long?
I honestly had no feelings. I mean, in the sense that I knew neither. I didn't know their work. And I've never seen any of the rushes that they shot with Paul, so I have no idea whether he would have been as good as Sean or better or whatever. I mean, the first I ever really became aware of Sean was when the first series was finished and there was a showing in London. I mean, I think it's true to say that Sean is the perfect Sharpe.
Yes, yeah, I think Sean Bean was fantastic.
I think he's absolutely wonderful, but I don't want to say that. I mean, really, I don't want to say that Paul McGann would have been worse because I just don't know.
No. I mean, I suppose.
I really do try and keep a distance from all that stuff. And I don't want them to ask my opinion. As who should play anybody, because they're better at that than I am. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, the question.
I thought it was terribly bad luck on Paul, but
it was. I mean, the story. Yeah, injured his knee, and it was really unfortunate. I think from the way it played out. I mean, fortuitous for Sean Bean.
It was very fortuitous because he really did fill the part beautifully.
Yeah.
And he took over at very, very, very short notice, and there's a photograph of Sean standing in front of a row of riflemen, or I can't remember, redcoats, and I'm sure it's been pinned up on lots of adolescent girls' walls because his green jacket is open, revealing some manly chest, and everyone thinks that picture was actually posed to sort of, sex symbol. And actually it wasn't. What happened was he took over, and the only costume available was Paul McGann's. And Paul is a little bit skinnier than Sean, and he couldn't button up the jacket. It's as simple as that.
It sounds like there's all these coincidences always seem to lead to sort of fortuitous events, really, iconic sort of images and stuff. But to flip it then, really, the other way, when you saw Sean Bean in the role and you saw him and the rifles, did that not impact so much, but did it influence the way you portrayed Sharpe or the rifleman later on?
It did, yeah. I mean, from that point on, I always heard Sean's voice when Sharpe spoke, which is good and fine. The only problem was that in all the early books, I say Sharpe has black hair and Sean patently doesn't.
Yeah.
And so, virtually from the moment Sean entered the picture, I never tell the reader what colour Sharpe's hair is. And I did get, you always get idiots who write to you and say, oh, Sean was terrible, he's got the wrong colour hair. And you think, oh, come on, fuck off.
Yeah, that's it. It's about the essence, isn't it? If you get the essence of a character. Yeah.
But, I mean, Sean was absolutely, he literally was the perfect Sharpe. And I'm sure Paul McGann would have been brilliant. Absolutely. I mean, he's a wonderful actor. But, we'll never know, will we?
Well, he went on to say, Paul McGann went on and he did appear in the Hornblower series.
He had to be a bit slower.
So Paul did go on and then appear in Hornblower. So he got his time in the sun to be during the Napoleonic Wars. But
that's right. Yes, he did.
So reflecting back on the books and the way they changed, do you ever have? It's a daft question, but do you ever have a favourite? Is there a book that you sort of think, that's the one where I really cracked it? That's the one I sort of hold up and.
I think we all have favourites. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you, I've forgotten most of them. I mean, I wrote them so long ago, and I've written so many books. I have a great fondness for Sharpe's Trafalgar, and for Sharpe's Company and Sharpe's Siege. But I mean, this is totally capricious, and I am intending to write one more.
Brilliant. So I'll have to make room on my shelf then.
My retirement project, although I actually think I retired 40 years ago.
No, that's fantastic news.
So I'm actually rereading some of them to remind myself who is who.
That'd be amazing. So I'll say I'm going to say thank you very much for writing the books. They were a great introduction to me. I've got them all sat on a shelf. Really, I'll wrap it up there. So it's early in the morning for you. So just a quick interview, but I appreciate you giving your time.
Well, no, I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for calling.
No, thank you very much.
Have you got my email?
I have your assistant, Cece. So yes, I can contact her.
Well, let me give you mine, because if you've got any follow-up, you can always write.
I will do, yeah.
It's my name, all one word. It's not case-sensitive. Bernard Cornwell. No gaps, no dots, no underlinings, nothing, right? One word. At Comcast, which is COMCAST, Comcast.net.
.net. Excellent. Thank you very much.
No, well, thank you. Good luck.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Okay, welcome back. Now, wasn't that cracking? I was so I mean, that turnaround on that interview was so quick. I was so pleased that he responded and gave his time to speak to us at 20th Century Geek. So that's Bernard Cornwell, and I'm taking it as an exclusive. I've searched it. There's a bit of news about it, but there you have it. 20th Century Geek can proudly pronounce that Bernard Cornwell is actively working on a new, possibly last, Richard Sharpe novel. So Sharpe's dotage, I don't know. Sharpe's political career, we don't know. So that's the books. Now I want to move on to the TV show. So I'm actually going to jump straight across and hand you over to myself and Jason Salkey to talk about the Sharpe TV series. So yeah, Jason. So thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate you giving up the time. It was great. So first things first, I'm a big fan of Sharpe, the TV show, and of the books.
Books are brilliant.
I actually found the books first, and then it was just literally within months I found the book, and then the show started. So it was quite fortuitous. But how did you get involved with the show?
Right. Well, it was just another audition, basically. In May of 1992, I went into Soho and met the director, who was called Jim Goddard. Jim Goddard had directed Shanghai Surprise, Riley Ace of Spies, done some heavyweight stuff, but Shanghai Surprise had kind of killed his career. Anyway, so there's Jim. I didn't know he'd done that. And there's Jim Goddard, and we didn't talk about anything to do with Sharpe or Cornwell or Napoleonics or anything. We just sort of chatted about general stuff, and my Jamaican dad, he's a writer. I came to Britain to pursue a career in poetry and novelism, and he just wanted to talk about my dad, and then talk about writing. And I'm like, what's this going on? Anyway, I realised when I got the job that Harris was the clever one who was into writing. So it was very strange the way the interview happened, and it was and not you never get told straight away about a job, but I waited for 6 weeks, almost 2 months. It was middle of July when I got the word, you got the job on Sharpe, you're going to Russia for 22 weeks. Good luck to you.
So
that's how. So it's just another audition. I had not long before that, I had auditioned for a massive American TV movie thing called Covington Cross.
Right.
That was going to be an American mini. They thought it was going to be huge. It was going to be an American mini series drama set in medieval England.
Wow, that's ambitious.
You can imagine how terrible that sounds. Anyway. And I was really geared up to try and get this job. I kind of messed up the audition because I messed up I didn't memorize the script, and I was really gutted that I didn't get that. And I was thinking all the time about trying to get that job, this job in America that's really going to pay tons of money, and I'm American. And so when the phone rang, I was thinking, because I knew the tone of voice of my agent when it was something good, something bad, something hello, darling. So I thought, oh yes, go. And it was yes, you got that job in Russia. And I was like, what? Which one was that? And so that's how I got the job on Sharpe. Just another audition, completely forgotten all about it. One day got the call, which basically changed my life.
So that's it. So the first, it was 3 episodes. Was it 2 or 3 episodes? The first was
right. So we were due to shoot 3 episodes. Right. Obviously, this is all in the book, which we'll get to. But what happened was, Paul McGann was cast as Sharpe.
Yes, well, I've read somewhere that not only was he cast, but he went out there and they'd fitted him up with an outfit.
Well, let me finish the sentence. Yeah, so Paul McGann was cast as Sharpe. We all practiced, did the read-throughs with him, went out to the Crimea. We shot for a week. We shot for the first week with the 3 or 4 days. And on the Sunday of that week, we went to the beach. And at the beach, we played football, and Paul went to gather a ball from out of the air. Wasn't tackled, wasn't no one there. Went out to gather a ball there, and his left knee went. His cruciate snapped. Not a tackle, no nothing. And since we were filming in the newly broken up Soviet Union, filming in the Crimea, and they didn't have an English doctor, no English stuntman, no English anything. Anyway, we were off duty that day anyway. So when he got back to the hotel, they basically wrapped up his leg and his knee and said, try and stand and try and get better. There was no MRIs back then. There was probably no X-ray. They're like, so it did get a little bit better, but he couldn't do action scenes, couldn't do running, couldn't do fighting, and he had to use a Russian stuntman who looked just like him. It was really good, but it was really awkward, laborious. And the director, Jim Goddard, who I auditioned for, he was really pissed off that his star actor was impaired. He's gone, and that ruined his whole. So he got very grumpy and was pushing him all the time until his knee got injured again, and then again. So in 6 weeks, he did it. He busted it. He snapped the cruciate, and then 2 more times he re-injured.
He must have been in agony.
Oh, it was awful. I mean, I don't know how much agony. Obviously, the first job must have been agony because that should require surgery almost straight away, and he waited for 6 weeks. So After this second relapse, he said, "Look, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go to an English doctor, get it sorted out. Hopefully, we can resume the production in 2 weeks, a month, whatever." And he left us all out there. And then the producers the next day called force majeure on the production, which means unusual circumstances have killed this. We don't have to honour contracts. We don't. So he thought, well, that's it. It's over. Dream job gone.
Yeah.
And we all trudged back to London despondently. And 4 or 5 days later, my agent called again saying, "Oh, Sean Bean is now Sharpe. You're going back to Russia in 3 days." I'd seen Sean in Stormy Monday. I didn't know much about him. Stormy Monday, I'd seen him in Patriot Games.
I was going to say, that's what, yes.
Yeah, so I thought, that could work. Because, Paul McGann was actually a friend of mine. I'd met him before. Hadn't worked with him, but I'd hung out with him in Liverpool and got football matches and partied a bit with him. So I was really gutted that Paul had left. And so I kind of was in the McGann camp at first. But when Sean got there, it was pretty much showed us that he was the man.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, I'm fascinated to know that. So you know, there was 6 weeks after he injured his leg. You say he did about that much filming, and then there's obviously filming before that. So there must be somewhere in a vault somewhere. There's footage of Paul McGann in full outfit.
Fast forward 4 years, and I'm about to do the 5th series, where I'm killed at Waterloo, and I get a phone call, and it's Paul McGann. I said, "Paul, wow, fantastic! He said, "I'm okay. Could you go along and speak to my lawyer? He's in his chambers in wherever it is, Chancery Lane." I said, "Okay, all right, okay, fine. Well, I'm suing Malcolm and Muir, those the exec producers, because my knee." I said, "Oh yeah, absolutely, fair enough." So I went along and sat with the guy in his office, and I was looking at stuff, and he showed me rushes. I saw rushes of Paul McGann at Sharpe. So yeah, they do exist, but they're not processed all the way to finished scenes.
Yeah.
They're very grainy and whatever. I have lots. I've got a few photographs and stuff, and they're going to be in my book. I've got Polaroids. I've got photographs on set.
Wow.
And one of the Chosen Men does have a little bit of video, but he's reluctant to.
Yeah.
So where were we? Yeah. So I'm talking with a lawyer, discussing all stuff, and at the very end, as I'm about to leave, he says, "Would you mind just signing this?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess it's just signing something to verify I said that or something." Didn't know what the fuck I was signing. And about 3 days later, I got a serious-looking letter through the post, a summons saying I'm called as a witness in the Paul McGann case versus
Oh my God.
the Sharpe. I was like, whoa, I didn't sign up for that. I did, because I'm about to go and do another series.
Yeah.
Negotiate my final year's contract. And that year I was killed, and I was left out of 2 episodes. So, whether they were going to do that anyway, or whether that's the McGann thing helped. So yeah, so that's what happened. So Paul McGann, and then so they were supposed to do 3 episodes that year because of the Paul McGann incident and the calling of force majeure. They dropped 1 episode. That was going to be Sharpe's Gold.
Right, which then got picked up in the second.
In the 3rd year.
3rd year. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Completely different script and a completely different cast.
Right. Because I gotta say, yeah, because it's one of those shows that I've got it all on DVD now, the remastered version. They look great, and you watch it, and I'm not knowing any of this, but the cast, like even in the first episode, you can tell when a cast get on. You know what I mean? You can watch a show and you go, "Oh, that worked." They click, and it looks like I say that it looks like everyone clicks and gets on. But you had all that time before, I suppose, to get to know each other and learn about each other stuff, which must have really helped then when you were doing that. When you actually got to film in the reshoots and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I mean, we did, even before we shot, The Chosen Men and Harper had like a whole 2-week base camp, boot camp thing, where we sat in the classroom. We learned everything about the 95th. Paul McGann wasn't with us, unfortunately, because he had another job elsewhere for BBC and he was shooting that. But so we bonded quite well, The Chosen Men. We were good at the bants and then had a bit of a laugh. So yes, we had bonded, and definitely the 6 weeks. But the thing that really bonded us was the adversity that we faced out in the Crimea. The food was terrible. We had the Paul McGann thing straight away. People got a tummy bug. From the water bowels that the Ukrainian army provided for us on set because they built our locations for us. So we were undergoing all this crap in the first 6 weeks under McGann. So when Sean arrived, we wanted to make sure that he was cool and fine, and we were going to protect him from all the bad stuff around. So that really brought us together. So yeah, but the fact that we were facing this almost combat-like conditions and adversity, that really did definitely cause our unit to be really strong. You know, we were very happy to be doing this job too. I soldier, etc. But yeah, we definitely had a great bond, and it showed on screen. You're absolutely right.
Well, you say about being like combat, and the one thing I think I was watching them through recently, and a lot of it seems quite nice. It seems quite it's bright, it looks warm, it looks fine. I don't know what the weather's like, but there was an episode, I think Sharpe's Honour, and it's winter there, and there's a scene, and it's when you find out that Sharpe isn't dead and he comes back. Spoilers, and you're all stood. There's an episode. It's you and Perkins stood next to each other in the snow. And you look cold to the bone, and I'm like, I think all I can see is you're in costume. I was thinking that must be freezing.
It was. I mean, we did cheat. We did have these lovely silk long underwear things on, but it still was freezing. But in that Sharpe's Honour, when I think it's when Sean's been caught to be just before he's hung, something, and he has to take his shirt off, and it was freezing. And there's a scene when Lass is freezing in the cold in December. Yeah, that was shot in November in the Crimea, up in a place called Baidar Valley, which was high up on a mountain, basically. Yeah, that was freezing. So we started shooting. We would shoot generally from August into December, and that Sharpe's Honour was shot when it was snowing. It was the first time it had snowed. No, it snowed on Sharpe's rifles as well, because we were filming that up a mountain as well.
Yeah, and I think, because I said there's a few episodes you can sort of see where it's raining and stuff, and so the weather must have been quite adverse at times. I mean, how often? What were the times of year that you were filming then?
Yeah, so as I was saying, we would generally leave in August, and we shot it all on the Crimean Riviera, the Yalta,
right,
which is on the Black Sea. So we would fly in, and the tourist season there sort of ends in September. So we'd fly in mid-August, and we'd fly into the capital of the Crimea, which is a shithole.
Right.
Nothing to do at all. But there are some good locations you can get to from there. And we'd spend about 2-3 weeks there, then go down to Yalta. So that was always warm, hot, lovely. So Simferopol, the capital, was stifling and horrible and sunny. But once we got to Yalta, we were by the sea. So we had a breeze, and it was beautiful weather. Temperate all the way into September, October, November. But we go and shoot stuff up the mountain, up on other locations. So where we stayed all year round, it was pretty temperate and nice. There was some rainy bits, but otherwise it was lovely. But the cold bits were when we had to climb to an elevation to shoot at the various locations.
So, because obviously you're shooting in the Crimea. The two things I'm curious about then really is we'll cover one thing. Like I said, the Crimea it's a former Soviet bloc area, and it's also one that I would say was relatively poverty-stricken. So, what was it like? I mean, what were the locals like then? Sort of having this filming crew sort of sat in the middle of it all.
Yeah, they were absolutely grateful. I mean, because it was so sunny. That area was known as the Soviet Riviera, the Soviet Hollywood.
Right.
That's the reason we were going to that area. Where we stayed down in Yalta, it was a seaside town. There were hotels. It wasn't, but yes, compared to how we live, not that we in England are so rich.
No.
Back in '92, it was pretty shabby. Stuff broken down, stuff made to amend. The water, we had water cuts, shut-offs, power shut-offs. Although we did find out that was more to someone not paying the backhander.
Oh, okay.
The food distribution was bad. That's the chicken was scrawny, so all those kind of things were bad. As I said, the standards of hygiene as well. We were really afraid to eat anywhere or drink anything. We of course not beer. Beer and champagne and vodka.
Yeah.
Drink without a problem. But drinking water or drinking tea But when we would go out into the countryside, then it's stark.
Yeah.
Shacks and people that look, they could have been out in the 30s. Like I say, peasanty. But it was quite a culture shock, absolutely, when we got there, and that's what a lot of my book is about. But we did shoot also in Turkey for 2 years, but the Crimea is where we shot the first 3 years.
Yeah, because
Bob's in Portugal.
I was going to say, because the other thing I'm curious about is because the sets are brilliant. I mean, there's you go into as they're supposed to be, sort of like Portuguese and Spanish villages and all this other thing. So were those sets, were they real places or were they built or?
Yeah. Sharpe's Rifle, Sharpe's Eagle, Sharpe's Company, Sharpe. But on the first year we did 3 weeks shooting in Portugal. So in Sharpe's Rifles, when we're going up to a monastery, and it's this long old corridor with cloisters on the side, a beautiful monastery up there.
Yes.
That's Portugal. That's real.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
That's real. Any of those Portuguese-y, look, I'm trying to think what other locations. There were a couple of barns, but you wouldn't know any difference between a set and a barn, but those are all in Portugal. So anything in the USSR, the former USSR, those were normally sets, yeah.
Right.
As I said, this was the Soviet Riviera, the Soviet Hollywood. So there was a film studio with a back lot in Yalta where we lived. So they already had built cowboy and peasant shacks, which were very easy to turn into a Spanish peasant village. And of course it was dry and dusty, which was perfect. So everything in the Crimea, just about everything, was a set that you saw. I'm trying to think of some exteriors that we used. There may have been we used Livadia Palace, which is where the Yalta Conference was held, which is where Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin carved up Europe.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So, and that's a beautiful palace built by the Romanovs. Part of that was used as Wellington's headquarters in Lisbon. So otherwise, everything was a built set that you see in Crimea.
That's really impressive. I mean, that's sort of like you say, the qualities. It's one of the things that attracted me to the show is that production quality. The costumes as well are outstanding. I mean, there's
Absolutely, yeah. There's a chap called Andrew Mollo was our set builder, set designer. And if you remember the end of Sharpe's Rifles, we have to take that village and raise the flag.
Yes. And
we're fighting the French, we're fighting the town, and the choir boys walk through the middle of the battle, and it goes harsh. Remember that scene?
Yeah.
The whole town was just built from nothing on the side of a mountain. It's incredible. A little fountain in there, the church, it's just unbelievable. Unfortunately, I went back there in 2006, and the whole set had been cannibalized for the wood. And lots of bits of plastic tiling that were the terracotta tiles are all strewn around. So that was a bit of a bummer.
That's true. But that level of quality is it shows on the screen. Like this was made with passion and with real skill.
Absolutely, and it helps your job as an actor as well, because you really feel like you're walking into a village, a Spanish village in 1809. It doesn't take any imagination. You're there, which is really helpful as an actor. And
I suppose that helps. I was going to say, when you look down and you're carrying an authentic looking rifle, you've got your green jacket and everything on. So I have to admit, the one thing is they look great. They never look comfortable though.
I will say our costumes were very comfortable because the premise of the opening of the show is that what happened in the Peninsular War is Sir Henry Moore he took an expeditionary force to try and fight the French at the top of Spain in Corunna.
Yeah.
He got a little way in, then he got fought back, and they had to retreat all the way to British ships waiting. And Sharpe's men, before Sharpe met him, Harper, Cooper, we're all on that retreat. So our uniforms are all knackered.
Yeah.
They're torn, our hair is long, So they pre-distressed our cozies. So really they were just rags. So there was nothing. It was very, very comfortable. The jacket was wool. Yeah. It was a bit hot in the summer.
Yes.
shampoo, the water bottle, all that. When you had to do that, that was when it got uncomfortable. But if it was cold, then it wasn't because you were
Nice and warm. Yeah. I've
the red coats. Yeah, they were uncomfortable probably.
I was going to say, some of the extras in the full, the red coat regalia with the stocks on and the lot must have been. It looked, but it all looks, and it all works. And it's amazing.
It was amazing, yeah. And a lot of those costumes, especially the extras, were from Moss Film. Because we were shooting in obviously former Soviet Union, we had a lot of Russian and Ukrainian co-workers, and the head costume lady had worked at Moss Film, and she was able to get all these costumes that were used on the original Waterloo, Sergei Bondarchuk's 1969 Waterloo with Rod Steiger.
Oh my god! Wow, that's amazing.
Totally cool, huh? So all those French uniforms, a lot of the British for the extras, obviously, because the Toffs, Sharpes, us, they were all made in London.
Yeah.
Duplicates are made and brought out, all the main characters, but the extras, all their stuff's in Moss Film.
Wow, that's really impressive. I mean, that's a real bit of legacy, like historical Hollywood history. I mean, the other thing I say, it's funny watching it again, like I say, because Paul I believe does he appear in it later on, or one of the McGanns?
Paul McGann is in Hornblower.
That's right. Yes, right. That's it. I do like Hornblower as well. But,
no, he didn't return to Sharpe. That would have been something.
Yeah.
Something, I must say.
But the show definitely attracted some cast. I mean, watching it, you see a very young Daniel Craig. You've got Liz Hurley. You've got all these people that just keep popping up. And it's a definite. Oh, that's a so-and-so kind of moment.
Yeah, I mean, and so many got their big start. As you said, but Daniel Craig was unknown basically. Liz Hurley had, she actually wore the dress about a month before her episode of Sharpe. So it's a perfect confluence, I think. Emily Mortimer.
Yep.
Mark Strong.
Yes. Yeah.
Bethany.
Oh, really? Yes. Yeah.
Those guys were unknowns.
Yeah.
But plus we had fantastic actors like Brian Cox.
Oh, yes.
Michael
Pete Postlethwaite.
Michael Byrne, who played Nairn.
Yes.
Yeah. David Troughton. Just so many great actors on Sharpe. I mean, the trouble is what happened is that they were chincing on the acting budget towards the end. The TV were giving less money, so they got less and less good actors. In fact, John Hurt had expressed an interest in being in it, but the money was too much. And he was going to be in Waterloo or Justice, one of the ones in the final. Imagine if John Hurt had been in it.
That'd been brilliant.
Worth the money, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Talking about Waterloo, before we get to that, there's one thing I'm curious about then. So for all this, I'm a big fan of the books. And you've just said there about there's a backstory to the Chosen Men. And I think it's a real shame that that's not been explored in the books, because obviously the books follow Sharpe. But did Bernard Cornwell ever visit the set? Did he ever...
Oh, yeah. He would come out almost twice a year. He'd come out. Certainly if we were switching countries, he'd come to Crimea and to Portugal. But yeah, he would definitely come out, and he would take us out to dinner, have a drink with him. He was a great laugh. It's really a great guy. So it was great hanging with him.
It must have been amazing for him to see his creations come to life.
Oh man, he loved it. Unfortunately, he didn't write Harris. Harris is from the Recollections of Rifleman Harris, who was a real rifleman. Didn't go to Waterloo, didn't die at Waterloo. Couldn't read or write, but he recalled his stories and someone else wrote them down. But yeah, Bernard loved it. There was one night, and this is in my book. Yeah. One night we were in Portugal in the first year, and we were in a bar, Fado bar, and it was towards the end of the shoot. We were very happy. We were drinking away, eating, listening to music, drinking. And we came to the end of the night, and we asked for our bill, and they were taking a long time to do it. And when it came, we sort of been severely cooked. We asked for hundreds of these escudos, lots of money, and we're like, no, this is not right. And we had Portuguese speakers, and we tried to hammer it out, and they say no. So Sean's in there, we're in there, we're all tanked up, and all of a sudden we see someone going to lock the entrance door. We're like, we're not having that. But me and Sean, I'm running up the stairs, and yank the person away, yanked open the door, and there's a guy out in the alley with a knife.
Oh my god!
And before I could even blink or think, I've been pushed out of the way by Sean, and Sean's going to attack this geezer who ran headlong up the road. And so Bernard Cornwell's at this dinner, and he's sort of walking up just behind us and witnessed all of this, and he was thinking, oh my god, this is my creation come to life. So it was just like that. It was like the Chosen Men going to sort something out, and Bernard was grinning ear to ear. So yes, and he was especially happy with the change from Paul McGann to Shaw.
Yes, yeah.
So Bernard orgasmic, basically.
Yeah, no, because Sean was a great choice, and he's a great actor. And I do love him in the role. But I say all the Chosen Men are great. And having read the books, the good thing about this is they never completely translate because one's a written medium, was a visual medium. But they are perfect through their means. But you do get invested in these characters, and over the years of watching it on TV and watching it on video and DVD since, you do get. For what we say about the Paul McGann thing, but yours and John Tam's send off, really emotional send off in Waterloo is brilliant, is magnificent. It really sort of it affected me when I first saw it. So, what did you think when you read that? And
right, so we're talking about the last series.
Yep.
We're talking about the context of me only being in one episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I was upset beyond belief.
Right. Okay.
In every single episode of Sharpe, and all of a sudden I'm not into whether it's because of the Paul McGann sided with him, or whether they got sick of me, or whether they're trying to cut more money down on the budget to add more horses and flashes and bangs to Waterloo. Whatever that was, I was miffed. But the dying bit was kind of cool because I thought, well, this is the last episode. We're not going to do more Sharpes, and in a way, that's a nice, poignant moment. And in many ways, that was the most poignant moment of the whole show. The only thing is, I felt they didn't make enough of it. The aftermath.
Yeah.
I know it's the Battle of Waterloo. They're winning. They're going to see Napoleon. They take a shot at and he takes a shot at Duke of Orange. But I just felt, it was like, Sean's Sharpe is upset, and Harper says they were soldiers. They knew what was coming. It's okay, and that was it. Many other characters in Sharpe had graveyard scenes. Teresa, Lennox. There's so many graveside scenes. I thought, come on, at least.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that because you're right. Because it's you and John Tams and when they're reaching across to grab hands as they're both sort of like they're both dying, and it's hugely emotional. But the episode ends with Sharpe at the front of a regiment, sort of like marching into battle for that one final thing, and it does feel a little. You're right. It does feel a little bit hollow in that sense of it's. They want to end on the hero shot. But like you say, even up to Sharpe, even as early as Sharpe's Eagle, you get the graveside.
Lennox.
Lennox. Getting the eagle stabbed into the ground. So that would have been amazing, but it really affected me. So it was a great. It was because I was invested in the Chosen Men by that point.
Yeah, no, totally. I totally understand. I mean, they had gotten to the end, I suppose. So that was okay. But I remember being at the press screening of Waterloo, and I didn't bother going in to see it. I thought, I don't want to see it. So I was sitting outside having a drink in a nice hotel wherever we were. And I heard the music ending, and I sort of went towards the doorway for where everyone was coming out, and lots of people coming out in tears. I was like, oh my God, is it that bad? But so I found out that's why. So in a way, that's it works out great. But as I said, I was a bit miffed. I wanted to finish Sharpe. It's been 5 years. I wanted to get to something newer pastures, maybe great pastures, which never came. That's how I felt about Waterloo. Definitely.
Well, just looking back though, I mean, final question before we get onto the book. When you watch it back though, which for the films, if you were to from a Harris perspective and from a Jason Salkey point of view, if you were to point to an episode for someone to watch, which one would you say stands out for you?
Well, I would have to. Well, if they want to see me, I would say what Sharpe Sword, Sharpe Smith, the one where I break the code, or the one where I play the butler. But for me, the essence of Sharpe are episodes where there are more than 3 or 4 chosen men. Sharpe's Rifle, Sharpe's Eagle, Sharpe's Honor, Sharpe's Enemy. I don't really like Company so much, even though some people say it's the best episode ever, because it's written by a guy called Charles Wood, who's an Oscar-winning screenwriter, but he refused to write Sharpe in the sort of non-specific vernacular that we had developed with Rifles and Eagle. It wasn't Regency 1819 speak. Yeah. It had a sort of in-between, and Sharpe and his men could speak together and not have to stand on, and be awkward. Whereas Charles Wood didn't at all like that. He thought grunts, privates should not be able to speak at all. They wouldn't talk to their officers. Wouldn't have that chumminess. So Sharpe's company we're very marginalised. So even though it's all of us together and we're all battling together.
Yeah.
So I would say those early scenes are the ones I would direct people to.
Yeah. I mean, Sharpe's Enemy for me stands out. It's one of my favourites, Sharpe's Enemy, because again, it's got everyone in it, and it's got the great Pete Postlethwaite and the ending. That's Talavera, isn't it? They sort of.
It's yes. Sharpe's Enemy is actually Talavera is Sharpe's Eagle.
That's right. Yeah.
Badajoz is.
Badajoz.
Enemy is basically beating the deserters who have overtaken this town.
That's right. Yeah.
Gets kidnapped.
Oh, that's right. It's because you've got the French sort of the sort of calls himself the Colonel, and you've got Pete Postlethwaite, and all that. It's a fantastic episode. I think that, again, the cast in that are great. It's one of my favourite books as well. So it's one of the early books.
Also had Nicholas Rowe, who played the Rocket Man.
Yes.
Also a lovely little part, and I love Sharpe's Enemy, and also the introduction of Fredrickson.
Yes, I was going to say, because again, the Rocket Men are great. I'm a big fan of young Sherlock Holmes as well. So,
me too. He's a great guy.
I do recommend anyone check out the series. It's a fantastic series. But let's talk about your book then. So let's talk about what you're trying to do. So
yes, right. So I told you that Harris is based on this chap called Benjamin Harris, who was a son of a Dorset shepherd who went to the Peninsular War. Mm-hmm. Didn't go to Waterloo because he got ill at a battle called Walcheren, where a lot of soldiers got this weird flu bug thing, and a lot of people died and got knackered for life.
Wow.
So he was laid down with that. Anyway, after all that, he recalled his stories, and someone else wrote them down, a guy called Captain Curling. And it's unique because it's not an officer, not a gentleman who's written it. It's an accountant, a real down and dirty foot soldier accountant. So when I got the job on Sharpe, that's one of the first books I got. Before I got the novels, I read that, and I thought, wow, this is gritty and amazing. Why don't I be the Harris of this TV show? Now, what's going on? Because I am shooting in the Soviet Union, and you never know, it might be crazy. Mm-hmm. And it was crazy. So I kept a diary, and then a couple of years in, I did a video diary. So I have a 3 years of video diary. It's a 10-episode diary. So I didn't. When I had all that material, diaries, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I didn't know who to approach, whatever. So the first thing I did was a video diary, which I could punt out on my own website. Mm-hmm. And I sort of gave up on the idea of a book until last year. I did a bit of a posh history festival. In this meantime, I had developed a lecture about Sharpe. It was like about a 45-minute lecture. It covered the whole of my time at Sharpe. I did a few conventions in America. I've done it a couple of times over here. So I did this lecture at this history festival, and a lot of famous historians were there. Dan Snow, his dad, all these really famous. And there were a lot of literary agents. And one agent said, "Look, I think you have a book in this lecture." I was like, "Oh, okay, great." I'm going to get a massive advance, and then sit writing my lecture. So in the end, it boiled down to this Unbound of crowdfunding, a way of publishing, which is great because it spurs me. I can see how much is being developed. I can keep on. So that's where. So it's going to be a story. My story of Sharpe from before I got the job to basically present day, but concentrating on the 5 years of production. 3 of which were in the Crimea. So, and I feel that the Crimea was really influential in causing the whole look of Sharpe, that camaraderie, that bond you see on screen was started in the Crimea. So my book's called From Crimea with Love. It's also called that because I met my wife there. She was an interpreter on the foot of the various departments, and we got together and got more and more together, and our son was conceived on Sharpe, so he was the first Sharpe baby.
Excellent.
So basically since I finished Sharpe in 1996, I've been talking about it all the time, sending photographs, and I go regularly to history festivals where I sign autographs, sell my video diaries, and soon we'll be selling the book. So
brilliant.
Basically that's what the book's about, and it's crowdfunding at the moment, and it will probably be written in a year, hopefully. But it's great. It's a nice catharsis getting all this stuff out, and it's very entertaining. We went through so much shit; it's unbelievable. Not just the Paul McGann thing, but anyway, you can read all about it on the site.
I really will. I mean, just reading the blurb you've got on Unbound, it sounds fascinating. So
it is, and it's fascinating times. 1992 in the Ukraine. That's where we were. It was crazy times. So all of those things together should make it an interesting read.
Yeah. So where can people find it? Where can they fund this book?
So it's crowdfunding at the moment. So basically, if they want to get in and help me, they go to the website, which hopefully you'll put a link to.
I will.
And you click on it, and on the funding page, and it's not a charity. This is, if you chuck in 20 quid, you will get a hardback copy of the book. You will get your name written on a roll of honour inside the book, and when it's published, it will be sent to you.
Excellent.
So it's not charity. You can give a charitable donation to me as well.
Yeah.
On top of, you can add more money, and there are other more expensive gifts. The most expensive gift is inviting me to your place of business. I can do the lecture I talked about. There's also a signed copy of Sharpe's Waterloo in Japanese.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Bernard Cornwell. That's a completely. So those are on the high end, and on the low end are £10 for an audiobook, 20 quid for a hardback copy of the book, and there's a lot of stuff in between. And
that's a bargain. It sounds fantastic, and again, there's so many stories. Just this sort of in this sort of short period, you've given some stuff, and there's so much more. I'm assuming that you'll talk about
so much more, and so much more detail, and just analysis. And I'm gobsmacked when I'm going back and writing about it. What? And all the fun people are on Sharpe. That's all in there. Liz Hurley was a great laugh. Daniel Craig was as cool as you like, off set as he was on set.
Yeah.
All the stuff is in there. It's going to be entertaining, but it's going to be just eye-opening.
Excellent. It's a must-have for any Sharpe fan, and anyone who's interested in that sort of period in TV history. I will put a link in for it on the notes, and so please do check it out, listeners, because and throw some coppers that way, because it sounds fantastic.
Absolutely, and as always, if you're on Facebook, you can always go to my Facebook group, Rifleman Harris fan site. There's also Sharpe's Rifles group, and there's my website, riflemanharris.co.uk.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And again, thank you for your time, Jason. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
No, not at all. And like I say, so check these things out, and check Jason out online. There's plenty of stories, it sounds like, coming our way.
Exactly. Do what he just said.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it, mate. We'll catch you again. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there it is, the interview with Jason Salkey. Wonderful guy, really appreciate him giving his time, and some great stories there from on the sets and behind the scenes of the production of Sharpe. So, just to remind you, if you want to know more about Jason, there's his website, that's riflemanharris.co.uk, go check that out. And of course, he's writing the book From Crimea with Love, all about the time on Sharpe, and that's on Unbound. So just Google Unbound. There's also going to be some links in the notes for this episode, so please go and find those out. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've travelled through time, we've talked about the Napoleonic Wars, and some swashbuckling heroes. It's been fantastic. This is your history lesson for the month, and we're going to go through some other things coming up in the future. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this episode. Thanks for sticking it out. And if you want to get in contact with us, if you've got anything you want to say, if you've got anything you want to contribute, if you want to suggest a topic for the episodes, please get in contact. Okay? I'm on 20th Century Geek at gmail.com on Google. I'm on Twitter at 20th Century Geek. I'm on Facebook, also /20th Century Geek. I'm on Tumblr. I'm on Instagram. Check out our Instagram feed. Some great photos going on there. And, of course, we are on Patreon. You guys get this for free, but it still costs us to keep these shows going out. Not a great deal, but any money we get coming in goes straight into the show, and it would be greatly appreciated. Anybody that can throw a few coppers our way. There's some great content. We're doing some movie reviews. I think possibly one of the best shows I've ever done is on there. I reviewed Flash Gordon, the 1980 cult classic with Julian Darius, and we got into some really great conversations there. And I'm doing a sort of every month, I do a bit of a blog piece on what we call it 100 years of pop culture. And it's about the lesser talked about or the lesser known nuggets of pop culture history, still on history, from that era. So check it out. There'll be a link to that in the show notes as well. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time, and we shall see you again next time.